And welcome once again to Superconnectivity. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me as always is my faithful co-host, my equal, my par, my peer in everything I do.
Phil me and Parrish, and I'm just a humble student in the ways of Esser.
Nonsense. You are every bit the hero of this podcast, if not more so than I. Okay. Friends, neighbors, countrymen. A lot going on in the universe of Marvel right now. First news just dropped today. January, my birthday, the month in which I was born, shall also be the month in which the Black Panther was born. They're going to be starting principal photography on Black Panther in January, and I, for one, welcome our new Wakandan overlords. How about you, Phil?
Yes.
This is exciting. I mean, it really is. I do think Black Panther was an excellent thing in our Marvel Civil War. The way he managed to encapsulate both exuberant youth as a new hero, while at the same time quickly evolving into the royal dignity of the Black Panthers that we have come to know and love. For a character arc, he really gets this fantastic growth over a short period of time, and it does seem, at least to me, fairly organic when you're watching it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
As he goes from a man of bent on revenge to a man aware of where revenge leads you. He is, you know what I like about Black Panther? He is a character, as he was depicted in Civil War, who can see what's going on around him, internalize it, and react to it. He is presenting himself very much as the smartest man in the room, as the Black Panther always is. He is always he is a genius on par with Reed Richards, if not beyond Reed Richards. In fact, the entire point of Black Panther when he first arrives in the Fantastic Four, I forget what issue that was, but is that he was the man who quickly bested each of the four, including Reed Richards, you know? Mm-hmm. That he is this guy who is brilliant, and unlike so many geniuses, Tony Stark can learn from his mistakes and learn from others' mistakes as well. You know?
Uh-huh.
You know, he is a man, he wears the crown, but the crown, you know, the heavy is the head that wears the crown, and the crown makes him humble. He is able to sit there and say, I acknowledge this difficulty to me, and I can make the world better for my people. In that idealized philosopher king, that Marcus Aurelius, if you will, that we all long for in our leaders, but so often we get a Tony Stark instead, a loudmouth, braggadocious billionaire who can barely learn from his own mistakes, let alone someone else's. That's the problem. We don't live in Wakanda. But I think that can be said for so many things. Life would be so much better if we lived in Wakanda.
But I'm sorry. That's what sets Black Panther apart as such a great hero. He can put his emotions aside for the moment, unlike a lot of our heroes, as we saw in Civil War, and even like guys like Batman. His T'Challa's father was killed within days of like the end of the movie, but he was still able to like put his thoughts of revenge and his emotions aside and take Zemo in.
And to that extent, I mean, what you're looking at there is the idealization of noble oblige, you know, the idea of the obligations of nobility. And, you know, it is one of these things, this is sort of the argument you make when you want to say that, you know, dynasties are a good thing. Mm-hmm. Because if a person is raised in that world, they understand the weight of it.
Yes.
Those who might just run into it may not understand the complexities of the world. And and not for nothing, I think there is an argument to be made for Nobel oblige. I think that when you face it in its best scenario, it's beautiful. The problem, of course, is that the best scenario is not the scenario you always get. Mm-hmm. And I think that, of course, is the truth of pretty much any philosophical perspective on letting it rule your entire world.
Yes.
Whether that's hereditary monarchy, whether that is dictatorship or fascism, or whether it is just good old true blue democracy, or representative Republican democracy as we have in this country. Sometimes it comes back and bites you in the butt.
Yes.
Not saying it did this time because you don't want to get political in Superconnectivity this week. But, and hey, if you were, I'm sure there are a lot of people that are happy with recent outcomes in politics who felt that previous outcomes were the times when democracy bit us in the butt. And for what it's worth, that seems to be the cycle of politics, is that every couple of years, at least half of us think that democracy bit us in the butt. And then in the ensuing weeks, in the ensuing years, the other half gets to feel that way. Mm-hmm. But yes, let's not get political. But I do love this idea of the new Black Panther film. I can't wait to see what it's going to be. We have had it suggested that Bucky will show up in it. Ooh. So that's, I believe I'm forgetting the guy who plays him, Sebastian Stan. Yes, I believe Sebastian Stan had said that he was on set. Now he might have been on set like Zod was on set. He might have been in a tube. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, yeah, I'm in it. I'm totally in it. And it's like, yeah, you're a dead body, but Zod was in it, technically. Zod was there in Batman v Superman. So we don't know that. But, I do hope that maybe we are going to get an awakened Bucky. I can absolutely see a situation in which Black Panther may find himself in rapid need of an ally. Mm-hmm. And know he's got one in the basement. That would be very cool. Now, of course, what might be interesting is if he invokes the protocols with Bucky, because that, of course, leads to that complexity of the ruling class, that sometimes there are things we must do for the greater good, even though what we do is evil. Possibility, I'm saying, think about it, possibly you might see it. I don't think they're going to pull punches with King T'Challa in this, because certainly we have not seen that in the recent books featuring T'Challa, especially not Ta-Nehisi Coates' take on Black Panther, where we do get that strong Nobel oblige, but we also see that he is not above dealing with the darkness. He's not above dancing with the devil in the pale moonlight when he has to. For the good of Wakanda, and for the good of Wakanda, sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to ally with Captain Marvels and form the Ultimates because Wakanda must survive. That is the truth, and why I will always say that was how you know Doom was the villain in Secret Wars 2 was because there was no Latveria. I really wish someone had brought that up in that series. It was, and to me, that was like the big failing of it. Is no one ever asks, "Where's Latveria? Where is this country that you have said for so long is so important to you?"
He moved on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, well, because he never really cared, Mm-hmm. And now, my fan theory that the whole of Doom's madness is based on a lie his father told him. Mm-hmm. That is the actual descendant of the Baron, the original Baron von Doom, the Baron of Latveria. Because of course Von is a royal honorific. So if you're a Von, then you're from a place. And if you're from the place, that means that you are important in that place. And of course, Doomstadt is the capital city of Latveria. So clearly, the barons would have to be the barons von Doom. the Barons von Doomstadt, the Barons of the city, the Barons from the city. Mm-hmm. So that he had the name Von Doom suggests that that was their family name, which would have had to come from his gypsy grandmother, who we never met Doom's grandfather, so perhaps he tells the story how maybe she was the Baron's lover, and, you know, from whence the Von Doom name comes as she gives it to her children, including Doom's father. I forget his father's name, the one who froze to death in the Alps. But anyway, moving right along. So that's coming. That's coming in January. We don't have much else to go on besides rumor and innuendo, but we know that it's starting. And so we know that in 2017, that is going to be our dominant Marvel story, is all the leaks and the thoughts and the discussions about Black Panther, which makes for a crazy world in which we live, but that's where Marvel is. And I think that the politics of Black Panther are going to push that movie to the top of the market. You know, because nothing makes you want to spend money than feeling like you're on the outs politically. And, you know, there would be no Fox News if it was not for the Clintons.
Uh-huh.
You know, really, honestly, there would not be a market for it if people didn't feel, which is why, if you want to get a little political for like 5 seconds here, which is why I think if there is an electoral rebellion on Monday, because we're almost there, and it gets tossed to the House of Representatives, don't be surprised if Hillary Clinton doesn't wind up as president. Because there is this real convoluted, it's very game theory. It's very unlikely, but it's one of those situations where if you look at it as a gamesman, the best possible scenario for the Republicans right now would be to put Hillary Clinton as president, because she would be a very weak president because she's appointed, not elected. And it would give the Republicans a person to rally their base against, even as they had thwarted their base's will by not putting Trump in the White House. Mm-hmm. So it becomes, so as a gamesmanship, it actually works out better to have Hillary Clinton there for the power structure of Republicanism. Because here's the thing: is if Donald Trump is the president, the Democrats will certainly retake the House and the Senate in 2018. That's all but a foregone conclusion, because the Republicans will not be energized, the Democrats will be hyper energized, and they will simply overwhelm them by sheer desire to defeat Trump. And the Republicans know this. The Republicans are painfully aware of this. They know how the cycles of politics go. The fact of the matter is, as funny as it might sound, as a gamesmanship situation, they were kind of hoping that they'd get Hillary, and Hillary might take the Senate. You know, that the Democrats might take the Senate and the House would stay, and then they could use that as their base to relaunch in 2018 to retake the House and the Senate, because this House and the Senate is where the real power of the government is. Mm-hmm. Right now, they're kind of in that spot where they're going to have pretty much everything. They have to now deliver on all these insane promises they made, knowing that any promise they fulfill on is likely going to cause them problems later on. You know, they know they've basically made a deal with the devil right now, and they're trying to figure out how they might want to get out of it, and knowing that even getting out of it is probably still going to cost them their souls. So that's where they're at. We'll see how it all plays out on Monday. And if, none of that happens, then we'll move on. And happy birthday to me, because I'm born on January 20th, and that's Inauguration Day. And not what I wanted for my birthday, but moving right along. Okay. Moving beyond the politics of it, let's talk about Ned Leeds.
Yes.
Now we know, and I'm forgetting the young actor's name, but he is an Asian American actor who everyone looks at and says, that's Gank, right? Because he looks exactly like the way you draw Gank. He's Spider-Man's best friend, but you're naming him Ned Leeds. First off, looks more like a Gank than a Ned Leeds. I'm just going to say that. Just going to toss that out there. But it's an interesting choice. Now, what do you think about this? What do you think about this reality, Phil? Because we know that in Homecoming, Peter Parker's best friend is Ned Leeds,
And I'm just wondering if they're gonna go the Harry Osborn route. Because in the comics, Ned Leeds, well, he was a reporter for the Daily Bugle, but he was brainwashed by the original Hobgoblin to act as the Hobgoblin for him, because when Ned Leeds died, everyone thought the original Hobgoblin was dead, but he really wasn't. So I'm just wondering if they're gonna do the whole, Peter Parker's best friend becomes a supervillain riding a Goblin glider again.
Well, it's entirely possible. What's interesting about it is, of course, Ned Leeds wasn't a high school chum of Peter Parker's.
No.
Ned Leeds worked at the Daily Bugle. He dated Betty Brant. He eventually married Betty Brant.
Yes.
And we do know Betty Brant is in Homecoming. Now, we don't know if she's working at the Bugle or if she's going to be another student. So this is what makes it all very, very interesting, because what it really seems to me like is that Marvel made this decision to merge all the stories they had in the Ultimate Spider-Man concept, and especially our modern Ultimate Spider-Man concept, with the classic Spider-Man, to create this new sort of ultimate hybridized Spider-Man, which has a Peter Parker, and in this Gank role for Miles Morales' best friend, Gank, they decided to put this Ned Leeds character in and basically cast Gank as that role. And now they can explore that, and they can look into this idea of maybe how over the next, 2 to 3 to 4 films, because let's face it, Tom Holland, he's a young kid. The actor playing Ned Leeds is a young guy. All the actors are pretty young. They can stretch this out.
Oh, yeah.
This can play for a very long time. And so you could really see here what I think could be Marvel's first real trilogy or quadrilogy, in the sense that these stories are being written with the understanding that there is a later story to be told.
Yes.
The closest Marvel has had to that, because really the closest you've ever had to that was Captain America. Captain America has definitely been a trilogy between First Avenger, Winter Soldier, Civil War, where there was clearly stuff that was planted in the earlier stories that came to fruition in the later stories. Now, all that said, each story was very much meant as a standalone. They weren't meant as a continuous. I think the Spider-Man series could very much be this continuous story. This story where at the end of Homecoming, you're going to have what is going to be the start of, Spider-Man the college years, or Spider-Man, whatever the next issue is, the next episode of Spider-Man is going to be. Mm-hmm. Spider-Man the Deadly Dust, as it were. That's going to be there. That's going, I think that's what they're planning on. I think that's what they're hoping for. And I think that's what they've set themselves up for, is to have a real integrated progression of stories. Now, I think Sam Raimi tried that a little bit, but I don't think he was as successful. I think he definitely tried to show the growth of every character and the difference for every character as it progressed. But I don't think that he ever felt comfortable enough to say, I'm going to have 3 to 4 films here, and what I set up in this film is going to lead to that next film. Beyond just a couple Easter eggs like Kurt Connors, playing with the symbiote, entity, which of course could lead very easily into our lizard theory. I think that this might actually really have stuff that's planted almost, almost Netflix style and Game of Thrones style, where going in that it's going to be a prolonged story. What do you think, Phil? Do you feel that, or is this just my fantastical wish fulfillment?
I think the sky's the limit with this. Just, like you said, all the actors in this are pretty young, so I mean, we're definitely getting 3 or 4 movies out of this cast.
If they're good, you know.
Well, I mean, now that it's under Marvel's control, I mean, and when you compare them to the ones that have come before, I don't think most people are going to have complaints about the quality of these movies.
I mean, yeah, that's our expectation. I mean, the fact of the matter is that Amazing Spider-Man was supposed to be at least 3.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Tobey Maguire could have gone for 4. I really think they could have gone for 4 with Tobey. They didn't. That was a choice they made. But I think Raimi probably had a 4th story in him. Had they really pressed him for it.
Just all I would say is don't try to pack multiple villains in your second and third and each sequential movie. It's like, I think that's what happened with Tobey Maguire. They the third one they tried Sandman and Venom, and even in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, I mean, you had the Green Goblin again, you had Electro, and the movie probably wouldn't, and the Rhino for a short bit. It's like, would that movie have changed at all if you had taken Jamie Foxx out of that movie?
Well, if you took Jamie Foxx out, yeah. I mean, it's a completely different movie. He's the main villain. I mean, really, I mean, you could absolutely, I mean, the Rhino pulls right out. I mean, the Rhino...
Yeah, the Rhino pulls right out. But, I mean, yeah, Electro was a bigger threat, but it's like, I don't know, it just seemed like the Green Goblin did do more damage. He killed Gwen Stacy, but... Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the weird thing with the Green Goblin there was this whole... making Harry the Green Goblin, and I don't know. It all seemed pretty weird the way they played it.
I think they kind of rushed that plot just so they could kill Gwen Stacy.
Yeah, which I've never understood. I really don't understand. First, I've never quite understood the need to kill Gwen Stacy quite so fast. Because for what it's worth, first off, it's the second movie. I mean, if you really want to kill a Gwen Stacy, then you kill her in the third movie. It's like. But you know what? The honest reality of Amazing Spider-Man is it felt like they knew they weren't getting a third film.
Well, I think they wanted to bring it. They wanted to bring in Mary Jane. I think they were more in love with the whole death of Gwen Stacy story rather than more than Gwen Stacy.
Yeah, but the whole death of Gwen Stacy only has power because it is Gwen Stacy who dies.
Yes.
It's like saying, I love that. Outdang spot scene in Macbeth, but who really cares why she has the spot? It's like no, that actually is the death of Duncan and the guilt and everything is so powerful in that because of everything that leads up to it. Yes, that's a great scene. Outdam spot out is a great scene. But it only is a great scene because of what comes before it. If you say, well, let's kill off Gwen Stacy because that's such a great and powerful scene, it's like, yeah, because we had fallen in love with Gwen Stacy,
Yeah.
Because Peter was going to marry Gwen Stacy as the relationship progressed if they hadn't killed her,
Mm-hmm.
It would have been Peter and Gwen getting married, not Peter and Mary Jane, It's only, that's why that has... weight. Now, I'll still say that Mary Jane is Peter's true love because Mary Jane is Peter's adult love and Gwen was still his, youthful love. But that's me as an old man who has become cynical about love because that's what happens when you get old. You get cynical. Yeah, you kids, you don't know what is to know. But the death of Gwen Stacy has power because... not because, we killed her, but because, we lived with her before she died. Mm. We had her as a character. We had her as an important part of Peter's life before she died. And when you're only doing 2 movies and then you kill her, you never really even get the chance for her to live.
Well, that's what I'm always saying. That's always like the weak point of any of these Marvel or even DC movies is like you have all these decades of stories and continuity in these, and the more these filmmakers the more material they try to pack into 1 or 2 or 3 movies. It's like you can't fit 50 years of story into like even 2 or 3 movies. Yeah,
well, I mean that was Sam Raimi's big objection with 3 is that they were pushing him. You got to put in Venom. Venoms are moneymaker, and he's like, what his view is like. First off, Venom is a Secret Wars character. We can't.
Yeah, I know. The symbiote just like falls out of the sky. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's how they've handled Venom in other storylines too. Is they've just he's stuck to the rocket that John Jameson, which of course we didn't even have John. Well, no, you did have John Jameson in that. That's right. Although now they've actually moved on beyond that in some other stories, but the reality is that you have this idea that there's these suits that want to push the story forward, and I think that's why people feel good about Marvel taking over. Is Marvel knows we've got time.
Yes.
I mean, we can introduce Venom if we want to do a Venom story. That's fine. But there's such a backbench available that you don't have to just go and do it. Now, of course, a big thing with Sony is, of course, they had to get these characters in so they didn't lose rights.
Yes.
And that's always Sony's things. And Marvel says, well, we don't have to worry about that. The rights are there. We've got our deals. We're going to be okay. Let's tell a good story. And that's what we're hoping for with this. And, for what it's worth, opening with the Vulture is going to be awesome. And I think we can all agree that, Michael Keaton as the Vulture is like Baby Groot, absolutely stealing this show. And that brings us to Baby Groot, which is another interesting thing that came out in the news today, which is as much as everyone's all like, oh, Baby Groot, he's so cute, blowing things up with Rocket Raccoon, and here's little Groot on Rocket's shoulder, the way that Rocket was on Groot's shoulder in the first movie. And, James Gunn basically said, I love Baby Groot. And yes, I understand how Baby Groot has become such a meme and such a thought and such something people love. But, you realize how nervous I was when I pitched this.
Yes.
Because, of course, as he said, this could have gone sideways real easy. This did not have to be a hit. This could have been his worst idea ever. And you can see that when you think about, like, anytime you try to inject cute. First off, he says, because it deviates from what the formula was. The formula was Groot was the powerhouse. Now we're making Groot, essentially the comic relief. We're downsizing Groot, which is a violation of what we had, what people had and what people expected. Mm-hmm. So that's dangerous. And then you also have the very real Ewokian backlash, Yeah. The way people... for what it's worth, the Ewoks, very profitable from a story point of view. Mm-hmm. People love the Ewoks. I love the Ewok cartoon. I actually loved all the Ewok ancillaries because I found that they actually have a very deep and interesting culture, the Ewoks. You don't get much of that in the series, in the movie, because all you get is that the Ewoks are tiny Wookiees. And... people didn't like that.
But you could tell. You could sell toys and stuffed animals.
Well, exactly. You could sell toys and stuffed animals. And as they did an expanded Ewokian universe, you actually found with Warwick Davis as our Wicket, you actually had a pretty interesting thing. A lot of people don't remember that. The Ewoks were paired with the Droids cartoon, which told a lot of great expanded universe stuff within the Lucasfilm franchise. In fact, there's actually even a suggestion now that Rey is based off of a character that was first featured in Droids. Have you seen that on the internet? No, there's a character who basically has Rey's exact storyline and origin, and her name is like, it's very similar to Rey. It's like Say or something like it. It's like almost it's like almost her exact same name. She looks exactly when you see her. There's a on the YouTubes, Phil. You type in Rey Droids, and you might get this pop up, and you get this reveal of this character who is this junk dealer on this desert planet, abandoned, who comes in contact with the droids in like a very early episode of the Lucasfilm cartoon Droids, which I believe tells R2 and C-3PO's adventures prior to meeting Luke. Although for some reason I always thought it was after they met Luke. But anyway, as they're bouncing around the solar system at some point before they get assigned to where they are, where they get the Death Star plans. there is a character in there who some have suggested might be Rey's mother. They may actually tie it all together.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to have to see what happens. Fingers crossed. Someday we may know.
I heard. Well, you want to hear
yes.
an interesting theory I heard? I'm trying to remember where I heard this. There's someone was saying Rey. What if Rey was Obi-Wan Kenobi's like granddaughter or something?
See,
yeah, but it would be like a full circle thing. Like he trained Luke, and then now Luke would train her.
Yeah, the only problem with that is that Jedis can't marry, and the implication of that is Jedis are not supposed to have sex.
Yeah, but after Episode 3, was there really a Jedi Order left? Because he went into hiding for a few years.
Yeah, he went into hiding, but we don't hear about him having a wife or a daughter or anything like that. So I think that seems very unlikely. I think that the Jedi line is not supposed to propagate. I think that is for what it's worth, one of the worries about, there's that great meme out there that, that Star Wars is basically the story of one family screwing up the entire galaxy. It's one family who can't get there, whose drama just totally spills over and ruins the entire galaxy. And that maybe that is the implication here, is that, Jedi aren't supposed to have children, because then you get into this, patrilineal or even matrilineal line of the chosen. Mm-hmm. Well, I am the daughter of Luke. I am the son of Leia. I am of the line Skywalker, and so I need to be the boss. Mm-hmm. And the idea is that no, the line of Skywalker ends with Anakin, and that's what it's supposed to be. Because if you have this line that goes on, this imperial line, if you will, it actually leads to bad things. That's an argument to be made. I don't know if I 100% buy it, but I know that that's an argument to be made. Beyond that, you have this idea that what I think is kind of suggested in Rey, which is that, moving away from something that maybe was in the early storyline, or not in the early, but in the prequels to the main book, which is that, or the main Star Wars, the prequels that they did, that which kind of moved to this idea along the idea of patrilineal line or matrilineal line of access to the Force being this genetic thing passed on, is that they are moving away from that back into this idea that anyone can use the Force, that the Force is all around us, and any person who wishes to be open to the Force can utilize the Force. That all it takes is just to say, I will do. I will not try. I will do or do not. That is all that it takes to access the Force. And then when Rey accesses the Force, it's this thing when they say, "Oh, Rey's such a Mary Sue because she just, she just tries it, and then there's the Force." Like, yes, if you are pure of heart and you believe, all it takes is faith and trust and a little bit of pixie dust, and you too can fly. Mm-hmm. That is what Rey does, because she believes in the Force. She believes in this thing, and there is this quality that we see in Rogue One, which I haven't seen yet, but we see from the way that they talk, and what we saw in A New Hope is this idea that this understanding of the Force is a pretty common religious idea in this universe, in this galaxy. That they say, even though no one there's a Jedi, before they go off to do battle, they say, "May the Force be with you." But "May the Force be with you" is, a very common phrase in this galaxy, because people recognize and believe in this concept of the Force. And the idea that anyone, regardless of who you are, whether you are a slave or the Emperor, you too can access the Force. The Force does not discriminate against you. And I think that maybe is meant to be the true beauty of the Force. And maybe with Rey not being related to anyone is how you emblemize that. Because, of course, for what it's worth, that's the thing. It's like, when you get into these this familial line of Jedi, it goes bad. Mm-hmm. Whether it's Anakin, who had children, or Kylo, who is the grandchild of Darth Vader, is that line of Jedi who turn to the dark side because they are, in fact, born to it. They're born into that idea of I have the power. The power is my birthright, not the power is something I've earned. So that's an idea there. I mean, as we do our super connections, that's where. Now, one last thing I want to talk about before because we've been going a little bit long tonight. Well, not too long, but we've been here a while. And I got one more topic I definitely want to talk about, which is Slingshot. Was a 6, basically 5-minute episode, so about 30 minutes, about half an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that we got focusing on the character of Yo-Yo. And what occurred with just after the Sokovia Accords are ratified and the appointment of Mace to directorship. Now, have you had the chance to watch it yet, Phil?
No, not yet. I do want to see it though, but I don't mind spoilers. So does it takes us back like before this season?
Well, so what it opens up, so it opens up at the end of this season, where you have Daisy basically training to get back into being an agent.
Okay.
And Yo-Yo kind of goes up to her and talks to her about, they're going to want to know about what happened that night, quote unquote. They're going to have to know what happened that time we did that thing,
Mm-hmm.
That did you get that thing I sent you, as the hippo says. And then we get what that thing was, which is that basically in between, not even in between seasons, but in between the last scene with Daisy and the first scene and the after credit scene of the last season, this is everything that happens. And you have the signing of the Sokovia Accords. You have Phil stepping down as director of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Mace coming into the position. And you get Yo-Yo sort of dealing with the fact that, S.H.I.E.L.D. has to be ordered. S.H.I.E.L.D. that has to be this protocol, which she does not want to deal with because she has gotten a hot tip on the man who killed her cousin, whom she wants to go after. And of course, what Phil says is, well, go to Mace, talk to Mace about it, and, you can go from there, because that's the protocol now. You have to follow the protocol. And of course, she goes, and Macy's being his normal, gee whiz, 50s golden age hero self. Mm-hmm. I'm waiting for them to actually give it, it is, and I will say this, it is the annoyance to no end that no one but me seems to care that we haven't gotten Mace's origin yet. Mm-hmm. This is an important thing we need to get is Mace's origin, because there's clearly more going on than we've gotten, and I want it. But so he basically goes with her, gives her the Sokovia Accord, say, okay, before we can do anything, you have to sign here, put your thumbprint, let's do your retinal scan, And he says, and don't worry, the medical exam is not that invasive. But she has to do this in order to be a member of S.H.I.E.L.D. And then she wants to give him, says, so here's this guy I want to go after. And he's like, okay, well, here's the form you have to submit. We will assess it, and we will decide if we will send an agent after it. And this is important because of course, what Mace says, this is the crux of Civil War. In fact, what I will tell you is that you get a much better understanding of Civil War in Slingshot than you do in the entire Captain America Civil War. I mean, you get a good sense of it in there, but here I think they actually take 5 minutes to just say, here's the politics of it, okay? Here's the reality of it. You go off, and he basically calls her out and says, look, you are a superpowered individual who says, here's someone I have a vendetta against, because use S.H.I.E.L.D's immense spy technology to help me extract my vendetta. And Mace is like, we'll look into that for you, okay? Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, going after someone for your personal vendetta, not the best idea. More beyond that, it's not the best idea that, you have a personal, you have a personal vendetta that you want to extract, because superhumans running after regular people is not a good thing. But of course, Yo-Yo's not going to take that for it. And of course, she immediately goes and breaks rank. So she uses her super speed, best power ever. We all know super speed. Speed Force, good power. That's why the Flash is the best superhero. Except for Superman. Because Superman has super speed too. It's just super speed and all the other stuff.
Wait. Did you just say a DC hero is the best hero?
Well, in the DC universe, except Quicksilver in the Marvel universe, but he's currently under Fox control. So the Wizard is the best superhero, is what I meant to say. Because super speed is the best superpower. So she quickly, and not for nothing, I do understand that the Flash is the person people think of when they think of super speed. Mm-hmm. I'll always say this about DC characters: they're more powerful than Marvel characters. Marvel characters have better depth of story because they don't have as much power. Mm-hmm. But when you just want to say powerhouses, DCs are the powerhouse. Because they're not nuanced. They're just all one thing. They are, as Robin said on Teen Titans, a one-trick pony.
Just be careful, Charlie. Remember, you're going to be in the same room with Lilith Hellfire within the next month or so.
Oh, that's okay. I don't hate DC as much as I did as a child, because I'm a grown up now, and I can read DC and say, oh, that was a good story. I have like 3 books that I'm regularly reading at DC, so
That's right.
I'm totally there, man. If they ever bring back Ambush Bug, that's the 4th book right there. Love me some Ambush Bug. Better than Deadpool. I'll say that right there. Ambush Bug, better than Deadpool. When you want to talk metafictional characters. Now, Ambush Bug is the best metafictional character because his metafiction is overt and not as much of a gag. It is kind of in the way that Gwenpool is a metafictional character, but at the same time, his metafiction plays into everything in a much more dramatic. You can have Deadpool do some, or not Deadpool. You can have Ambush Bug do some stuff that is somewhat dramatic in a relatively straightforward book, even as he's being metafictional. It's a pretty cool thing. Anyway, but moving right along off of this. So, of course, so Yo-Yo violates protocol, steals Mace's credentials, runs the facial recognition to access the Omni spy network that watches you constantly. Jeff Mace is watching, kids. And finds this guy. He's in Maryland. And she goes, and of course there's some great tension scenes where she's trying to hide what she's doing from Fitz and Simmons, who are having a whole big thing about living together. And she then goes to try and go to Maryland. And then, of course, May stops her, and May takes her to a plane, locks her in the plane, and basically says, you're not a very good spy. There were only 2 people who had access to Mace's credentials, and you were it, and basically breaks it all down to her as how she knows everything that she's about to do. But then she basically says, you need to be better as a spy because the next person who catches you may not be me. And then lets her go to Maryland to deal with this vendetta thing. And this is the big crux of it, is that when she does face the vendetta, when she does approach this guy, he basically tells her, well, you're doing just what I did. I said I was, yes, we used our excessive force, but that was because we were protecting the city. Mm-hmm. We were doing what we were doing because that's what we had to do, And you're going to tell me that you're better than me because of that. And when you're here and you're here to kill me, I don't buy that. And what he's doing there is he's got this super weapon. I think it might be the laser gun from, I think it was the 2nd or 3rd episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The Hydra weapon that, shot disintegration beams. I think he got his hands on that, and that's what he's going to sell to the Watchdogs. And of course, Daisy, she gets captured by this guy. Yo-Yo gets captured by this guy. He's going to sell this to the Watchdogs. He says, if you want to take out superhumans, you need a superhuman weapon. That's what this is. Let me show you how it works. And before he can kill Yo-Yo, you actually, Quake shows up, Daisy shows up, and basically busts her out because she's chasing the watchdogs. You have this great bit, and then at the very end, after, battle, Yo-Yo has her confrontation with the guy. And she's like, he basically says what we've said, which is that, who are you? You're just another, you're just like me. You're just someone who is using his power, using the power you have to overpower someone else. And this is the crux of the Sokovia Accord, is this idea of people with powers saying, I know best, and I'm going to say what we're going to do. Sort of what we got in Jessica Jones this week, about that hubris of the superhuman who says, I know what's best. I'm going to make the decision. And I don't care if it destroys your life. I don't care if it disrupts your life. I'm going to do what I feel is best because that's what's best. And while it's great to say, but I am doing what's best. I am the noble person. I am the person who is, I have the Nobel oblige, like, the Black Panther. I have Heavy the head that wears the crown. I do understand the weight of power and responsibility. All that nonsense. It's very easy to say, but then everyone says that, and then the Punisher says it as well. The Punisher says, I have these skills, and these people need to be punished, and I am the one who will do it. And, as much as we want to make the Punisher a hero, he is a sociopathic murderer,
Mm-hmm.
He is not right in the head is what the Punisher is. And so what happens, and this is a bit of a cop-out, so big spoiler. If you haven't seen, kids, if you haven't seen Slingshot yet, please watch it. It is a good show. It's only going to take you about 30 minutes to watch it. It's a good, 6 short films that tie together as one long episode. So it's basically like watching half an episode of S.H.I.E.L.D. without commercials. It just all ties. You just keep on getting credits instead of commercials. She decides she's not going to kill the guy. But then, of course, one of the watchdogs comes in with the laser weapon, fires it, and then we get to see Yo-Yo basically, move faster than the plasma beam as she moves out of the way. And then, of course, what happens is the plasma beam hits the guy that she decided not to kill, but now he gets killed anyway because, solves the problem. And then, she basically incapacitates everyone. And then S.H.I.E.L.D. arrives because they've been either tracking the weapon or tracking Daisy's Quake powers. Either way, they realize they have to get out. And then this is the kind of the crux of it at the very end. Her and Daisy goes in and she hacks the system because that's her magical hacking power. They isolate the code that had her GPS location showing that she was there. And then Daisy deletes it, and they basically sit there for a minute, and she's like, I can delete this or I cannot delete this. What do you want to do? And she says, do it. But you can see in that moment that Yo-Yo is sitting there saying, I am taking the law into my own hands. I am being what I don't want to be. I am being these corrupt cops from my country who killed my cousin. I am being the person who's taking the law in their own hands. And I know I'm doing it for the right reasons. I know I'm being right. But you can see the conflict and the torment on the actress's face as she does that. And that was a really great thing. So I highly recommend to everyone, watch Yo-Yo or watch Slingshot. It's a very good episode. And Phil, are there any more connections to do this week? Because I think that's a lot of connections. Or did you have any thoughts on anything you want to talk about before we go?
No, I think we pretty much hit everything.
We hit a lot. We went from, we didn't even talk DC, and there's a whole mess over there. But hey, you know what? Someone's got to get on that Channel 52 and start doing a DC Connections podcast so that I don't have to worry that we didn't talk about the Batman suicide thing,
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole thing, but I don't have time to talk about it here. We got too much Marvel to talk.
I'll talk to the boss over there.
Yeah, you go tell Lilith, she's slacking off and she needs a couple more podcasts on there. Okay, Phil, if someone wants to talk to you, how can they reach you? How can Lilith write you to tell me why you let Ned talk smack about me? How can this occur, Phil?
If you want to place your bets on the upcoming January boxing match between Lilith Hellfire and Charlie Esser, you can always email me at nightwingpdp@gmail.com. On Twitter, I am at nightwingpdp. And check out all my fine work at philparrish.wordpress.com and on southgatemediagroup.com.
Okay. And of course, if you want to write to me in that old-fashioned email way, the way our Maz and Boz once did, you can always write to me in the email that is named for this very podcast. Why it makes sense here and very few else on the other podcasts I do. You can write to me at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And of course, if you're one of those hip young cats who plays on the twits and the twitters and the tweets, you can do so by following me at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's right in the middle for quality. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been another episode of Superconnectivity. Thank you for joining us. Please connect with us again. Good night.